What's up, YouTube? It's your boy John from Project Ellsworth. It's Tuesday again, which means it is time for me to show you guys another section of my collection. Let's get it. Alright, so this week we are focusing on row 1, section 8, which is this guy right here. Say hi to Candyman. I'll pull these things and we'll see what we got. I hope everybody's doing well and staying safe. Let's jump right into this. First up, we have Bubba Hotep. I have not seen this movie in years and years and years, probably since right after it came out. One of my friends actually watched this before I even heard of it. He told me about it, I picked it up and I watched it, and I remember this being quite a bit of fun. Don't remember it really well. It's a hilarious hybrid horror film. Bruce Campbell gives his greatest and most entertaining performance to date as an aging and cantankerous Elvis in this zinger-filled crowd pleaser. From writer-director Don Coscarelli, that's the dude who made Phantasm. When mysterious deaths plague a Texas retirement home, it's up to the most sequined senior citizens to take on a 3,000-year-old Egyptian mummy with a penchant for cowboy boots, bathroom graffiti, and sucking the souls from the barely living. So yeah, this was a fun movie. I don't remember the movie itself very well, to be totally honest with you, but I do remember that movie was a lot of fun. Alright, next up we have Bug. I know that I've never watched this movie. This was, I'm sure, was like a Walmart $5 purchase. It's been a significant amount of time since I bought this movie. Let me see. Nah, I'm not even going to bother reading the back of this one. It looks like a movie where bugs are trying to take over the world and kill you. That's pretty much, long story short, that's what that is. Alright, next up is The Bunker. It's got a big hole in the case. This, I know, was one of those going out of business buys that I got at that video store several years back. It is 1944. A platoon of German soldiers, battle-weary and torn by tension and dissent, take refuge from advancing alien forces within the confines of an underground bunker system. As night closes in, a series of increasingly bizarre and horrifying events begin, leading ultimately to a deadly cat-and-mouse game of psychological warfare in a maze of tunnels. Are the soldiers being stalked by enemy soldiers, or have the demons from their past finally caught up to them? It sounds good. I'm sure it's not. I haven't watched this one yet, but maybe one day I'll get to it. Maybe one day I won't. Who knows? Alright, next up is Burial Ground. Absolutely, positively love this movie. I did a review of this movie a couple of months ago. You can see that on my channel. This is awesome. Just old school Italian overdubbed zombie movie at its finest. Love that stuff. Next up is Ryan Reynolds in Buried. This movie takes place pretty much entirely in a casket. Doesn't sound very exciting, but it actually is a really good movie. Crazy ending, awesome movie. I definitely suggest watching that one. I was really looking forward to that one when I heard it was being made. I'm a pretty big Ryan Reynolds fan, and I thought that movie was great. Alright, next up we have The Burrowers. Let's see what this one says. The Dakota Territory is 1879. A handful of brave pioneers maintain isolated settlements in the badlands beyond civilization. Irish immigrant Fergus Coffey is... Yeah, that's it. Fergus Coffey is near to winning the hand of his beloved Marianne when she is suddenly taken from him. Her family is brutally abducted in a nightmare attack on their homestead. So yeah, that sounds pretty good. I didn't read all of it. That's about half of it. But this sounded pretty good. A splendid blend of raw Western grit and unnerving horror. So I remember that sounding pretty interesting. I think I did buy that one at Walmart. I remember reading the back of that and thought it sounded good. I think it was like a $5 buy. This one I heard was pretty brutal, and I actually bought this in a pawn shop while I was on vacation in Myrtle Beach about 10 years ago. It's called The Butcher. I've never watched this movie, but I've seen most brutal, most gory lists on YouTube, and this one has been on a few of them. The Butcher, which is one of the few films to be made outside of the Southern Korean film industry, something that's virtually unheard of. This film is effectively a furious condemnation of the mainstream Korean film industry, told entirely through two cameras to give us the perspective of both killer and victims, Davis explains, whoever the hell Davis is. Must be the director. The plot is dead simple. A group of people are abducted, tied up, and thrown onto a slaughterhouse floor. They are about to become the latest stars in a series of snuff films being shot for export to other countries who are all too eager to see footage of Koreans killing each other. It's a nasty, bitter piece of work, as you can probably imagine. So yeah, I heard pretty crazy things about this movie. It's supposed to be pretty nasty. I have not watched that. I'm kind of surprised that I haven't watched that. All right, next up is The Butterfly Effect, Ashton Kutcher. This is a movie where he changes things in the past, which changes things in the present. Pretty good movie. Haven't seen this one in a long time either, but I have watched it. Pretty good. I know that there was a sequel or two of that, and I think I actually have them. Yep, I do. Here's Butterfly Effect 2. And Butterfly Effect 3 was part of that After Dark horror film series, the 8 Films to Die For. This one I have not watched. I don't even remember buying this movie, to be totally honest with you. It quite possibly was a gift from somebody, probably my wife. Alright, up next, The Bye-Bye Man. I really wanted to see this when it came out, and I've never watched it. I bought it. I think my son watched it, but I have still not watched this movie. And I heard good things about this movie, and then after it came out and I bought it, I heard nothing but bad things about that movie. So I know I'll get to that movie one of these days. I just haven't yet. Next up is Eli Roth's Cabin Fever. This movie was wonderful. I absolutely loved this movie. I remember when this came out, I thought it was absolutely amazing. I still think it's a great, great movie. I know they've remade this movie, and I don't understand that at all. Why? This is not even that old, to be honest with you. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. Alright, next up is Cabin Fever, Spring Fever. And I remember watching this movie as soon as it came out, and this is not even in the same galaxy of the movie that the original Cabin Fever was. This one I think takes off, high school prom. It's pretty ridiculous and silly. Next up is Cabin Fever, Patient Zero, The Birth of Fear. I watched this one, and this one is also a far cry from the original Cabin Fever film. It's worth a watch, I guess, but it's definitely not as good as the original one was. Alright, this one I just recently purchased at Dollar Tree for $1. I have not watched this movie yet, so I can't give you any explanation as to what's going on here. Based on the true life murders which inspired The Strangers. Don't bother locking the door, they're already inside. This is actually something I want to watch, but I just haven't gotten to it yet. This whole YouTube thing is keeping me busy. Alright, the next up is The Cabin in the Woods. This movie I watched as soon as it came out as well, and I also don't remember this one all that great. I remember this being pretty entertaining, and not being what I expected it to be when I saw it in the beginning, the first time. I expected something much, much different here. Not exactly sure what that was, what I absolutely expected, but I certainly didn't expect that. It's not what you expect. I'll put it that way. Next up is The Call. This is borderline horror movie for me. It's a horrific situation, but I'm not so sure that it's a horror movie. It's definitely a suspense movie. This is a girl gets kidnapped. A girl is trapped inside the trunk of a car. She calls 911 and gets on the phone with the dispatcher, which is Holly Berry, and she is now trying to save her. It's an outstanding movie. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but check that movie out if you get a chance. Next up is Candy Corn. This was a gift from my buddy Joe. I got this back around Christmas. I have not watched this yet. Perfect tone and atmosphere that will leave you craving Halloween. It's Halloween weekend, and a group of bullies are planning their annual hazing on local outcast Jacob Atkins. When they take things too far, He's resurrected to seek revenge against those who wronged him. So it sounds like these guys basically bullied or hazed a kid. They wound up killing the kid. The kid comes back to get revenge. I'm sure we've all seen 30 of those movies. But that sounds cool. I'll check that out. Next up is the original DVD of Candyman. I've had this DVD forever. I just recently purchased the Scream Factory or Shout Factory version of Candyman at Walmart for $10. But Candyman is a absolutely legendary film. You can never go wrong with that. Tony Todd is amazing in that movie. The story is amazing. It's a Clive Barker movie. Everything about Candyman is fantastic. And as horror fans, I don't need to tell you that. Next up is Candyman Farewell to the Flesh. This movie I thought was also good. Also Tony Todd. Not as good as the first one as can be expected, but a very good movie nonetheless. And finally, Candyman 3 Day of the Dead. Once again, I thought this was a good movie, just like the second movie was, but I didn't think it was as good as the first movie, just like the second movie was. Alright, that's it for this week's section of my collection. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up. If you really liked the video and you have been enjoying my content up to this point, please do me a huge personal favor. Click that subscribe button and ring that notification bell. If you guys want to see a review of any of those movies in that section, leave it in the comments section. I'll check it out and we can talk. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Have a kick-ass day. And thank you for watching. Later, folks.